There's nothing more thrilling than Elliott Shore Park saying, "You ready to go live, buddy?"
Let's see. I already got a comment.
And then
So
I was
I did
like,
catch
"I
you
don't know,
guys
am I?"
live.
And he's like, "I'm hitting it." So we're
Rebecca's
going live.
watching live. Thank you, Rebecca.
Oh, Hinderlighter, Becky. Hey, Beck.
So here's the
Thanks for
problem.
coming.
We're not gonna be able to read the comments from this far.
Yeah.
Too old.
So
My eyes
here's
just
the
don't
thing.
have it
Here's the
anymore.
thing. We need the chat to come through.
Yeah, you guys
need
got to
to-
kind of talk to each other.
Yeah, we'll do our best.
We'll try. We have a lot to talk about today.
Oh, buddy. All right, should we start?
I mean, here we go. Before we start, I love you.
I love you too.
This is gonna
I was
be
actually going to start.
Yeah,
Here
here we go.
Might as well just start, right? Here we go. Hey, hello. It is the Go Birds podcast presented by the Bet Park Sportsbook and Casino app. And for the first time in like 10 days, Elliott Shore
It's been
Park.
basically forever.
Look at your face, your beautiful
Yeah.
face. I missed you. I give you a gigantic hug.
It's very nice to be back.
Yes. And I wanted to get out of the way how much I miss you,
Thank you.
how much I love you.
This is gonna be one of those pods.
What a dream it was that you're the person I got to do this ride with.
Same. I appreciate
Now we're
that.
going to fight for the next hour.
Yeah,
I
now-
want everyone to know
Gonna-
Ellie and I have
Honestly,
very
though,
different
man, like-
reactions to everything that happened.
Yeah.
And we're going to get into it. 'cause
I
that's what
actually
we do.
think we don't disagree as much as you think.
Okay.
But look, here's how I view this. The post-game pod last one was mostly just
Sad.
wow,
Yeah.
right? I think this
Sad.
is more talking about what happened.
Yes, we're yelling, but yes,
Yes,
I agree.
yes.
Like, I'll tell you, like, everyone heard it, the night after, and really that whole day, Monday, like, honestly, this is going to sound extreme, and it is not in the same category as this. I just want to make this very clear, but it's the saddest I've been on a day since my dad died. And I
Wow.
know that sounds, and I was way more sad when my dad died. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to
Thank you
compare
for
the two.
clarifying.
But my dad died 19
Yeah.
years ago. That felt like the saddest day I've had in 19 years. Like just in terms
Wow.
of how sad I was, how disappointed, how upset. I said it before, and we'll get into it because a lot of people seem to disagree with me. For me personally, it's the worst loss I've ever experienced as a sports fan.
Well-
in my life as a sports fan at 41 years old, it was the worst loss. There are a million reasons why. We'll go into it all. But yeah, what I'll say today is I have transitioned. I'm still sad, but like I have transitioned from mostly sad
To mad.
to mostly mad.
Okay.
I'm mad.
So
I'm
let-
so mad.
Let
Go
me
ahead.
say this.
Yes.
The great thing about feelings is everyone's allowed to have them, right? Like no matter what I'm gonna say today, I promise you, however you feel, however a listener feels, that's not the wrong way to feel.
we're a pro feelings
Yeah,
podcast.
I am a pro feeling
Yes.
human being.
Me
Out-
too.
right?
We feel,
I say
buddy.
this
We
all the
emote.
time to Kristen, right? Like if that's how you feel, then like that's how you feel. Like, I'm not gonna say your feelings are wrong, right? But like we can just get right into it.
Yeah,
So
okay.
so-
Let's do it, buddy.
the further I get away from the game, my feeling is this. It really, really sucks that they didn't take advantage of the opportunity because I think the one thing I underestimated going into the game was like, look, they're set up for the future. Jalen's awesome. They have the 10th pick. They have Howie. Like the foundation is strong. Like all those things are factually correct. But when you watch the game and you see that they're in it and you see how close they are and you see that they're minus 400 at halftime to win the game, it's just going to be so, so hard to get back there. They
To
survived.
that specific point.
That's what I'm saying. They survived 17 games in the regular season, mostly healthy, right? They survived.
He had 22 and 20
Exactly right. I mean, like,
starters.
Jalen, like there were moments, but for the most part, if you would sign up for that season of health.
They got the
10.
one seed.
They got the 1 seed. They got Daniel Jones.
and
they
then
got
Brock Purdy, who
like-
got knocked out.
and that's not to diminish what they've accomplished because they were unbelievable. Like I tweeted this, but think about it. They got the number 1 seed, MVP play from their quarterback, an incredibly healthy season, both games at home,
Almost
a
hit the
10-point lead at
sack record.
halftime, a coach of the year candidate, a historic sack thing. Like it's never going to be like that
I
again.
know.
And so I think that to
That's
me,
why I've been feeling it.
well,
man.
but to me, where I think we differ, where our paths take different turns is
yes.
like I can't feel like they got cheated or that they blew it or anything. They lost to a great team and they mostly played a great game. They just lost. And
Yeah.
the quote I keep thinking of is I remember after Jalen Hurts after the Eagles lost to the Bucks. I think it was last year against the Bucks. I'm pretty sure it was this game. Jalen sat down and just was like, we lost. And that's just how I feel about it. They lost. I don't think they got cheated out of it. I don't think they blew it. I think if they play any other team in the NFL besides the Chiefs that day, they win the game. They played the Chiefs.
Yeah.
They played Mahomes.
We vehemently disagree on this. I think they blew the game. I think they got
don't.
cheated on top of it. And look, let me get in the cheated thing first because look, there's so many people. Oh, don't be a 49ers fan and all that. First and foremost, just to react to that, we were talking about 49ers players.
Yeah, it's different.
Players finding and complaining about what happened. First and foremost, our players handle it like men, like class.
Agreed.
And I love it. And I appreciate it. I'm a fan. And then there's another major difference between the two things. The Niners were complaining about something the Eagles did to them. The Eagles knocked Brock Purdy out of the game. The Eagles knocked Josh Johnson out of the game. You didn't have another quarterback. Kyle Shanahan didn't throw a challenge flag when he clearly should have. Like, these were your mistakes. We are yelling about a flag being like, even you agree. It was a whole.
I wouldn't have thrown it.
No one on the planet
would not
would
have thrown
when you have people like Kirk Herbstreit who call games for the NFL. When you have Greg Elson in the moment say, "I can't believe you threw that flag," and then double down in the postgame and say, "I still can't believe they threw it." When you like all these big time NFL people, whether it's Dan Lofsky or Pat McAfee or whoever it is, saying like that was wrong,
right,
that happened. Like, I think we are justified in being upset about it. And then on top of it, we didn't get into this on Sunday night. The field. And I know it hurts both teams, but like, let's be honest, it hurts the Eagles more. It's fair because they had to play on the same field, but that field hurts the Eagles more. The Eagles were the more talented team. B, like, they have speed rushers like Hassan Reddick, their best defensive player, maybe the best defensive player in the football game, was completely nullified by the field in the Super Bowl. In the Super Bowl! Earmuffs 1, 2, 3. In the fucking Super Bowl! That was the field? Like, how can we not feel cheated? I understand they both play on the same field. I get that. But how can we not feel cheated when the flag happens and when they played on that field and it hurt the Eagles more, whether they played on the same field or not? That hurt the Eagles more. Like, how can you not? And I'm not saying that's why they lost. I still think the Eagles blew it, too. I think the Eagles had opportunities, and we'll get into that, too. But in terms of, like, feeling at least a little bit, I understand if it's not the first thing you feel, but you should feel cheated if you're Eagles fans. That was not okay. Like, to play the field in that Super Bowl was not okay. And for that flag to come out in that spot, you showed me the fact Carl Trevor's crew had not thrown a defensive holding in 576 snaps, including 2 playoff games in there. They were like, so they let them play. Until the last play of this, or the most important play of the season. It's an absolute outrage. It just is.
So here's the thing. We'll take them separately. Let's look. You want to talk about the flag first or the field first?
Go flag.
Okay. Here's my opinion of the flag. I would not have thrown it in that spot, me personally, right? But we have to accept the fact that he absolutely held him and absolutely impeded his path, right? He stopped him like he.
I get it, but
let me finish.
In your finish, add on, if you don't call that exact same play earlier in the game, how do you call it then?
Right. So where I can't speak to is throughout the whole game were guys doing that and they were not calling it. I just can't speak to it, right?
Well, there was one that came
right. There's one example. There's one example.
A worse hold.
Right, but I'm saying but there are 3 or 4 receivers on every play running routes, right? So where I fall on it is this. I wouldn't have called it. I think it's lame that a game is ended that way. It wasn't decided that way, but it was ended. And it was a spread.
That's a perfect way to put it. It was not decided.
It was
that way.
ended.
It was
the game ended by that way, right?
Not end the Super Bowl. And also just for NFL fans, like if you're an NFL fan out there watching, which is the vast majority of the country, we got Eagles fans and Chiefs fans. Every single NFL fan should feel cheated that that's the way that potentially historic game ended.
Yeah, but he did hold. So I get your point.
Again, dude, they could go holding on every play.
But not like that. Not like that, though.
But dude, okay. Consistency. If you don't call it earlier in the game, can you call it in that spot? No.
I think. Well, here's what I'd say. I think you should call the game the same way. But there's a difference between a missed call and deciding not to call it. Right. The clip that you showed me, where I think it is Juju actually in the game that's held. Right. We don't know if they see it. We just know it's not called. Right. He saw the holding call. And here's what I would say to Bradbury. And again, you said it. I respect the hell out of Bradbury for standing up in his locker and going, I held, right? Because he did. I respect him, right? He said, I hoped I was going to get away with it or something. I hope they wouldn't call it, right?
Wouldn't call in that spot. And look, that video just came out. Jason Kelsey in the back
said, how do you call that? Or something like that, right?
Everybody knows you shouldn't have called it. That's the point. And I understand your point. It's a hold. Like, I'm not going to fight you on that. The point is, we all watch football. We all know the game. Like, you don't call that, and unless it changes the play. If it really changed, whether or not it's a hold, did that hold stop them from completing a pass? No, No, it didn't. And they didn't throw the flag until Patrick Mahomes starts gyrating and
Right.
pointing and stuff.
He
Like
threw it late.
that's
threw
BS, man. That's
But-
BS.
But let me ask you this: if the Eagles were in the exact same situation, wouldn't you want that call? So like this is where
No, I don't want the Super Bowl to end like that. In any fan space,
Okay.
like I don't like that. You
So
don't call all game and then you end the Super Bowl on a flag. No, as a football fan, I think it's bad for the sport. No.
Here's where I go back and forth on it, because I think the heart of this discussion is: do you call the game the same way throughout the game, or do you, in the final minutes, let them play?
They didn't do either, though. They let them play all game and then decided not to do that.
Right. So I wouldn't have thrown the flag. I just think the question is basically people are like, well, you can't call it there because of where it's at. I do see an argument
because
of
you
call the
didn't
game
it earlier in the game.
Yeah, well, but again, you keep saying they called it early in the game. We don't know that they saw holding calls and let it go. We just know that one clip that's been found, right? Like, again, there were, to your point, it's like offensive defensive line play. You could probably call holding on every snap if you wanted, right? But Bradbury, like, this was not a light hold. He tugged his jersey twice, went like in and out, right? And the ball ended up being thrown towards him. Now, ironically, the Eagles would have been better off if they just scored a touchdown there, right? Because
in hindsight,
then you would have gotten
but
right, exactly.
It shouldn't have stopped.
I
They
just
kicked the field goal with the ball with like a minute.
I
48
understand the obsession, not on your part, but I understand the obsession with the call. I don't think it's why they lost.
I don't think it's why they lost either.
Right.
I'm
I
just saying they
wouldn't
didn't
have
give
thrown
him
the
a
flag. Yeah.
I just can't believe they threw the flag. I'm not saying
Yeah,
it's why
I agree.
they lost. Again, that
I'm
is a key
surprised.
distinguisher. I'm not saying it's why they lost.
I'm surprised.
I'm just saying you can't throw that flag there, and I do feel cheated out of how that game should have ended. We don't know if they scored.
Well, and also from
who the hell knows? But my point is, we got cheated out of how the game should have played out.
Also, from a ref's perspective, like, why would you want to throw that flag? Like, why?
I honestly, like, I'm not the NFL's rig guy. There was a lot of money on the Eagles. A lot of money on the Eagles. I'm just saying that. There was a lot of money on the Eagles. Like, it was way better for
Right.
Vegas that the Chiefs won. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there. I don't think the NFL's rigged, but, like, I don't know. Why do you throw that flag? Why do you throw that flag?
I agree. I would not have thrown the flag. But the only place where I can't get as heated about it as you
and
are
then you see the Roger
that
Goodell hugging Chris Jones and saying, I
Right.
don't care how you hit the quarterback. Like there's just
Right.
a lot of weird stuff.
So where I can get down with you on this more so. So the flag thing, it is what it is. We both agree they shouldn't have called it. I am more in the camp of like he held, so he put himself up for that risk, but whatever. So the field thing. Here's my opinion on the field thing. They did both play on it. And I don't think they lost because of it. But the Eagles did have better receivers, cornerbacks, and
Well, I think it hurt them a lot more. Like, of these two things,
I think it impacted them more.
The flag was an outrage in the moment in that how do you end this? Like, it was basically, I was talking to Mike from New York, great caller, Mike Zanny, on the midday show. Also a huge Go Birds listener. Shout out to
Nice.
Mike. He had a great analogy. It's like you're at the best party you've ever been to in your life. You're having a great freaking time. The party's peaking, and then all of a sudden the music stops. So I was like, that's exactly right. Like, you're having the, like,
That's how the season felt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the season.
Talking about the field.
No.
Okay.
No. I'm saying before we get to the field. I'm talking about why I was
yeah.
upset about the flag and more upset about the flag in the moment, in that it's this like amazing, wonderful thing that's going on, and all of a sudden it's just over on a flag. The field definitely impacted the game more than the flag, without it.
100%.
Like, the field, you could argue, was the real reason the Eagles lost the game.
I think, look, I mean, the field was bad, right? And the thing I've been thinking too, and I'm sure we'll get into this play more, I almost hesitate to do this, but I wonder if Jalen dropped that ball because it was wet.
Of course.
Like, all year he hasn't dropped the ball like that.
Point.
The ball is being snapped every play, right? So the ball was just in the grass. He gets it. I don't know, but I do think the field being wet matters for sure. And I think it probably impacts Eagles a little bit more.
I mean, it did impact. I mean, Ollie Conley put the stat out. It was like 38% of Eagles snaps and 16%.
I just think the Eagles lost because they weren't the better team.
I think that's crazy.
They didn't play as well.
All right, let's get to that.
They didn't play as well.
Okay, how about this then? All right. The Eagles gave them 2 touchdowns.
Correct.
Gave them 2 touchdowns and still lost by 3. How were the Eagles not the better team?
Because
the only reason the Eagles lost was because of a fumble return 6 and a punt that brought in the 5-yard line. What are you talking about? The Chiefs needed 2 win game type plays, and they still only won by 3.
But that's what I'm saying. Because that's what I'm saying.
Not.
That's what I'm saying. The Chiefs didn't make those plays. The Eagles made the biggest mistakes in the game, and that's why they lost.
Exactly.
Right?
So the better team made mistakes, and that's why they lost.
But look at those mistakes. One is by the special teams, which we all agreed were bad all year, right?
But that was all-time bad kick. It was a line drive.
Yeah, because the punter sucks.
Yes,
because the
and
Chiefs have a better punter. Because they have better special teams. That's why that happened, right? Now the turnover thing is more fluky because he dropped it.
It's totally fluky.
It's fluky, right?
So
But
without that, the Eagles win.
But what I'm saying is those, like when I look at this game,
I think they lost. I think it's the craziest day.
if those two teams play
Like,
10 games, how many
I
do
think
the
the Eagles win 7.
Oh, you're out of your mind. The Eagles have a better.
The Eagles were
okay.
better, man.
Dude,
were a
they weren't better.
football
They
team.
lost.
They got hurt.
They
but-
lost.
but because of the field. Because
No.
Yes, this
They
is all
lost.
part of
They
it.
lost
The
because
because of the fumble 6 and because of the punt return. If you take those 3 things and flip any of them, the Eagles win by
I
multiple
agree, but you
points.
could do that for any game
But
and
again,
say if
these
you
are
take the
fluke
bad
things.
plays
These
away
are
and you
fluke
flip
things. Who's a better team?
the special team thing is not fluky.
The
It's
fumble
not
six
the
is.
fumble. Yes,
Is so
is.
fluky.
but like it is what it is. It happened, right? Like that fumble happened.
Sure, but,
So I'm just-
but again,
but here's the
that's,
other thing,
but
like-
that's a better team making a mistake to help the worst team win.
The-
That's how bad teams win, right? We always say the Eagles are the better team. They'll win if they don't turn the ball over. Up, they turn over pick 6. Or fumble 6.
Right.
That's how you lose to a worse team.
Here's the thing.
You're
When-
crazy,
if you
Sam.
talk about roster, I think there's an argument the Eagles have a better roster, right? The Eagles were outcoached in that
They
game.
were
I think
outcoached.
we underestimated
that.
that Spagnuolo
They were
is a
outcoached.
better defensive coordinator than Gannon.
Spagnuolo gave up 35 points.
Well, hold on. Whatever, but I'm saying, like, at the end of
The Chiefs defense did that, other than the fumble 6.
yeah,
the Chiefs defense did not
that's
win the
fair.
game.
That's fair. I guess.
Oh, Andy. Andy it was the best game Andy has ever coached in his life.
All right, here's what I should say. Let me reverse
Andy
it.
was amazing.
The Chiefs have a better coaching staff than the
Yeah, the Eagles,
Yeah.
the Chiefs. I think
but that
being
matters
outcoached-
when talking about the
Of
team.
course,
Like,
it's a big part of it.
Yeah,
Being
that's
outcoached is a
why I'm
big
saying
thing. But again, like without those things, the Eagles still should have won the game. Like this is not the Eagles were the
yeah,
better team.
I'm not saying. Look,
they didn't execute and they didn't win, but the Eagles were the
Look,
better
I-
team.
I
They
think-
did not lose
I
to a
think
better
both
team.
of these teams, like one's a 10 and one's a 9.5. I would go with the Chiefs because look, at the end of the day, they have the better head coach and quarterback. They just do, right? So that really matters, especially when you look at this game. Like when the more I get away from this game, here's how I view it. Both offenses played great. Both defenses sucked. One team made 2 mistakes, the other team didn't, and one team was way better in the second half. Like for all the attention that's being paid on the defense in the second half, the objective of each drive, if you're the offense, right, is to score a touchdown. If you're a defense, it's to not let up a touchdown. The Eagles had the ball 3 times in the second half if you don't include the final possession. They scored 1 touchdown, right? Like the end of the day, both units were not as good in the second half as they were in the first half. Now, why is that? Part of me feels like it just is what it is. They played poorly, but the Eagles got out coached. So that's why I think if these two teams played 10 games, I think it could honestly be like 6-4 or 5-5.
They gave up a fumble, 6 and a punt. I
Right,
don't understand you could possibly.
But
think that.
because I
They
think
should have won by 10. But they should have. And I agree. Look, Mahomes and Andy deserve a ton of credit. Like,
Yeah.
and their offensive line. Like, those guys all played really well. Like, and the Andy absolutely outcoached, circled around Gannon, which we'll get into.
and Nick.
And
Nick,
Nick, and Nick. But coach circles around them. And Mahomes was great and brilliant. But again, that was not enough to win the football game without these other things happening, without the field impeding the Eagles pass rush, without the fumble 6, which literally was the difference in the game, and without the punt return. Like without those things, and the punt return, fine. You want to say the punt return, the Eagles special teams is bad, and that's fine. You can say that. Without the fumble 6, the Eagles still win the game. They still win the game. And again, and that's what they're making mistakes. And on top of that, you add in the field, and like that does matter. We said it was an impactor. It at least played some role in the Eagles losing the game, whatever levels you want to say. So I don't understand how you can say they lost a better team when these things impacted the Eagles, and they still lost by 3 points. And they still, if it weren't for that flag, would have had a chance to win the game.
Right, but I think that when you talk about like the reasons they lost, right, like take away the field thing, whatever.
Well, it's part of it.
Okay.
The only reason for Kansas City
Again, the Chiefs did play on that field. Like they were on that, and I agree it probably impacted the Eagles a little more. But I honestly God believe like you cannot use the field as a reason they lost that game. I think
it's one of the reasons. I think there are lots of reasons.
To me, the main
point. It's
right.
not like I'm just saying like they lost because but these all go together.
They lost because they made mistakes that the Chiefs didn't. That's why they lost, right? And so to me, that's why I'm saying like. Again, if these two teams play 10 games, I think it would be 5-5 or 6-4 one way or the other. And frankly, to be honest, I would probably pick the Chiefs to win the majority of the games. Why? Because they have the better head coach and quarterback. They just do. Hurts was but it's not simplistic. All leading like
I said, it's too simplistic.
No, I'm saying I don't think it is too simplistic. Like going into you heard me the 2 weeks before the game, right? I was leaning Chiefs. I ended up picking Eagles, whatever. Bottom line is, I'm telling you this right now. I'll probably never pick a game separate of quarterback and head coach again in my life because the teams that win are almost always the team that has a better head coach and quarterback. And why did this game get decided? Mahomes was probably We can debate who was
Andy,
better.
like,
Hurts was unbelievable, but Mahomes and Andy combined were better than Jalen and Nick. They just were. And if you want to add Gannon and Spagnuolo, whatever.
But that's the thing is, the Eagles put 35 points on offense.
Right.
Like
but that's when the Eagles played great too. The Chiefs were just better. That's what I'm saying.
I disagree. I think the mistakes are the reason they won. And then
Yeah, but that's part of saying how they play.
But again, if they play that game 10 times, how many times did Jalen fumble that ball? Once?
I don't know, but maybe
Honestly, let's be honest, probably once.
Okay, but let's be honest too. If they play that game 10 times, how many times is Mahomes up with 180 yards passing?
I think that was the way the game would play out. I mean, again, Mahomes was hurt. That was not full Mahomes. Like that was another thing.
Well, that's
they should
another
be able to take advantage of.
Another part of.
But again, Mahomes couldn't. I mean, they just didn't have the ball that much. But Mahomes could throw well. Like there was no stopping him.
Yeah.
Johnny Gannon was horrible.
Well, he wasn't horrible in the first half.
Horrible.
Like he was.
Yeah, he didn't adjust. Oh my God, what a shock! Jonathan Gannon didn't adjust.
Well, or no. Or Andy made it.
Thank
look,
God. I can't believe he tricked everyone into believing in him.
Oh my God! At the end,
all you do is, we're gonna earmuff and fucking gut these guys.
And they did.
Fucking
they
loser.
did.
Loser was always a loser.
Again, I understand why.
Jonathan is the classic failed upwards guy.
Okay, I look. I wouldn't have hired him to be a head coach. I'm not disagreeing with you on that.
I think he is a lot.
And I think it's a bad spot he's walking into. I think in 2 years he's gone. Like I'm not disagreeing with you.
What a loser! Did you see his video? We got guys. He's just a.
This is what I've said about him when we've talked about personally. Like I think he always to me he does not seem as authentic to me as Steichen and Sirianni.
I agree.
Right, and I've said that on this pod before, right?
Yeah.
But like let's focus on the game before we get into a larger Gannon discussion. When you look at the game, the Chiefs came into that game averaging like 30 points on offense. How many did they score? They scored 31 points on offense, right? If you look at what percentage of possessions they score a touchdown on, I believe it was half their possessions. On the year, they scored at about 47% of their possessions.
Don't care about numbers.
No.
Once in the second half.
But hold on. But the offense was also really bad in the second half. The defense held the Chiefs to 7 points in the first half. If Jalen doesn't fumble that ball, and let's just assume that the game plays out the same way, they're up 17 points at halftime, in part because of the defense. The defense was bad in the second half. It was unacceptable that they didn't get a single stop, right? I don't disagree with you on that. But what I am saying is, at the end of the day, the offense was really bad in the second half. The special teams was bad in the second half. The Eagles, for the most part, I believe the offense probably had the best day of all three units, like definitely better than the special teams. But
definitely better than the defense.
I don't know if you can say definitely better.
Way better. That's crazy.
The offense handed them 7 points. You cannot get over what a big mistake that is. Like, look, Jalen's awesome.
Sure, it's a big mistake. I agree. But again, they were up 10 points after that. You had a 10-point lead.
But it would have been 17 if not for that. That's the point I'm making.
You're up 10 at the half, and then the defense lost in the game.
No. They both lost the game.
Once.
The offense.
Jalen walked down the field and got 8 points when you need it most.
Yeah, after two possessions where they didn't get touchdowns. The point I'm making is the offense. The offense had one touchdown.
Losing
the offense had one.
In the history of the Super Bowl.
Again, but like
ever scored more points
right,
than lost other than the Eagles.
Right. All right. The Eagles scored one touchdown in the second half. Okay. Like they had the lead, right? And the defense was worse and like it's reverse. The offense was amazing. Like both units were amazing in the first half. Both units were bad in the second half. That's why they lost. Like at the end of the day, the special teams made a huge play that caused them to lose. The defense couldn't stop anybody in the second half, right? The offense couldn't get anything. Like, let's be real. The offense in the second half, besides that one long play to Devontae, unless I'm missing, like, maybe the Goddard stuff was in the second half.
Yeah. 3rd and 14.
But, like, it wasn't like, they have a 17-play drive and got a field goal. Like, that's a failure. The 3 and out, that's a failure, right? The offense also made plays in series in the second half that were really bad. Like, so that's why when I look at this game, yes, we all know the defense was terrible. We saw it in the second half. They couldn't stop anybody. 100%, right? So was the offense. So was the special team. And you said it yourself. If this game plays out the exact same way, but two things don't happen, the fumble return or the special teams thing, they win the game. Neither of those are on the defense. So ultimately, if you go into this game and you said the defense held them to 31 points, I would think that you would think they have a decent chance of winning that game. 31 points, not a good outcome, but it's what basically the Chiefs averaged all year. And for what it's worth, 7 of those, they did start at the 5-yard line, but I still say 31 because ultimately the Chiefs would have scored on the final possession if they had to, right? So at the end of the day, the defense wasn't good in the second half. Neither was the offense. Neither was the special teams. They lost because they played an 8 out of 10 game, and the Chiefs played a 10, like a 9
Yeah,
out of 10. Like that's why they lost.
They lost because they played a 7 or an 8 out of 10.
Whatever, but
I
the
agree
Chiefs
with that.
played 1 point better.
But they blew the Super Bowl. That's the point. That's what I've been saying this whole time. They did not lose because the Chiefs were better. They lost because they blew the Super Bowl.
I think it depends how you define blew it. Like on one hand, I agree with you. When you're up 10, you should win that
They
game.
blew
You're
the
minus
Super Bowl. It's only
400.
the second
Yeah.
time in the history of the Super Bowl teams went up 10. That time and
Yeah.
lost
So
the
in
game.
that way, I agree.
They
But
blew the game.
for some reason, when I think of
And
blowing
again,
it, I think of
they-
more like a fluky thing. Like what happened wasn't fluky.
No,
The
they
Chiefs
blew it.
outplayed them.
No, it's not. No.
In the
Blowing
second half,
Super
the Chiefs
Bowl
outplayed them.
should you like you had the Super Bowl in your hands and you blew it? Like they blew it. Their mistakes, their inability to convert. And look, again, certain things. By the way, with the refs, we haven't mentioned the Devontae.
Yeah,
like,
that was a
that's
bad call.
crazy.
Yeah.
Like that was a bad call. That was a bad like to overturn it. If you called incomplete right away, I get it. But to overturn that on what you had was embarrassing. We had, I think Ross Tucker said he has a great line. Look, if it takes you 5 minutes to look at it, you can't overturn it.
I agree with you on
Flat
these
out,
things.
there's
Yeah.
not clear evidence if it takes you 5 minutes to look at it.
Right.
Like again, I get your point, but there were so many things that went against the Eagles that I think it's a combination of them blowing it and factors not going the right. And again, the
But
Gannon
two
thing,
things
with the
went
Gannon
against
thing,
the Eagles.
honestly, the only thing I'll give Gannon a pass on is that his pass rush might have gotten home with a better field. That's the best argument pro Gannon that I can think of. He didn't adjust. He got played like a fiddle like Andy Reid. I think he's horrible.
I don't
but
think,
again,
but
I
I don't
think
think
the
you can.
field hurt. I field hurt.
Okay, so I don't think you can say he didn't adjust. I think Andy
He
made
didn't adjust,
better
Andy.
adjustments.
Okay, Andy,
Yeah.
yes, Andy.
But-
Andy pants.
But the only reason I'm fighting back on the adjustment thing is because I feel like there's a perception out there about Gannon that he just like rolls it out and it is what it is. He does make adjustments. We can debate if they're
crappy ones. or
again
whatever.
going against maybe the best offensive head coach in
He's
the
a
history
loser,
of the
dude.
NFL.
He's a loser. He's never.
He's
beating
not a
quarterback.
lo-
He's never
he-
beating a good quarterback. Look. Here's what I'll say about Gannon being gone, and why I'm ecstatic about it.
Okay.
I'm very happy about it because look, and you do this whole thing where you're like, oh, it's a skill to beat bad quarterbacks.
It is.
Don't care.
Okay.
You know what? If you, I'll
Wait
take
till
a
next
couple-
year. All
I'll
right.
take a couple losses to bad quarterbacks if it means you have a chance to beat the good ones.
But they
Because
did have
Gannon
a
can't.
chance. They lost
Gannon
by
can't.
3.
Gannon can't be not because of him. Gannon can't.
It's
beat
part of
good
the reason.
quarterbacks.
Part of the
Gannon-
reason they had a chance to
He's
win
a
that. Hold on.
loser.
Part of the reason they had a chance.
Loser.
Part of the reason they had a chance to win that game and why they were minus 400 at halftime is because the defense held them to 7 points.
Every single, literally,
Right.
every single time.
They play a
as
good
Eagles
quarterback, they
defensive
lose.
coordinator played a good quarterback. He got beat.
And-
he got beat in embarrassing,
Yeah.
ugly to watch fashion.
Okay, so let's talk about
The
this.
guy's
right?
bad.
Dude, again,
He
He's
had
not a
he
bad-
had a freaking all-star team this year.
okay.
He had an all-star team. on
And what
defense.
did he do with that?
He did fine in the regular season.
No. He did
against-
better than fine.
Okay,
He had
but
one of the
again-
best defenses in the
Right,
NFL.
And it turned out everyone could say, "Oh no, quarterback." Yep, they were right. Turned out
Because they played
Drew can't
Patrick
beat a good
Mahomes and Andy
quarterback.
Reid, and they gave up
Can't beat a
and they
good
gave up
quarterback.
the same amount of points that they averaged in the regular season. They didn't get torched by Patrick and Andy. They gave up
they did
the
in the
Chiefs
second half.
in the second, but the
half,
first
it
half
mattered
happened.
most.
The first half
But
happened.
again, they lost. They lost in the second half. They
Yes,
lost
because the
of second
offense
half.
was bad
Oh,
too, though.
stop.
The
Don't put
what
it
was the
on.
offense bad in the second
The
half?
offense was better than the defense, flat out.
And not in the second half. They were.
Across the board.
Like they were maybe 5% better
This
in the
is a
second
crazy
half.
thing to say.
Ha-
The offense was absolutely better.
The offense went
The
3 and out,
defense
and they
made
had,
zero big plays,
Yeah.
0 sacks.
they were
0
bad. I'm
turnovers,
agreing with you.
And they
were
let
bad.
Mahomes walk down the field against them. And
They were bad.
Mahomes.
They were
They
bad.
were horrible.
But the offense wasn't good either. Is the point I'm
The
making.
offense wasn't close to as bad as the defense. You could say the offense wasn't.
Let me
great.
ask you this: Who had a better job?
Again, the
Who had a
offense-
tougher
At
job?
least the offense at one point when they needed it most got it done.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts walked around the
Yep.
field and got 8 points when they needed
Yeah.
it. The defense couldn't get one.
Who had a
you know what else
tougher
would've been
job?
One fucking stop.
Who had a tougher
one
job?
fucking
But
stop.
who had a tougher job?
I don't care.
Okay,
Like,
wait,
come on, win.
but here's what I don't get. When
Who has more
hold on.
talent?
When Gannon has a game against a bad quarterback, it's like, well, it's a bad quarterback. And then he has a game against a great one, and there's no leeway
Because
given
of the
there.
way it happens in the biggest of spots. This is the biggest game in the world. There's a chance to be world champions.
I agree with you.
World
That's
champions.
why it's
And the
frustrating they
dude
blew
coached
it.
like a freaking loser, man.
But the
What do you-
offense did too. That's what I'm trying to
The
say.
offense did not. The offense put up 35 points.
Yeah,
It's
but the
crazy.
offense-
This is crazy. They
the-
scored the most
The
points in
offense,
history of the
the
Super Bowl
offense
losing
had
team.
3 possessions. And look,
This is
I'm not going to count.
crazy.
The offense was bad in
They
the
are factually, by the way, you love to do it by points. You're
Right.
Mr. Points. They are factually the best losing offense in the history
Yeah.
of the Super Bowl.
again. I think
in
the
their
offense
history.
played
657 of them. They're the best offense to ever
Yep.
lose a Super
On the
Bowl.
game, the offense played better than the defense.
And that's
I agree
including
with you.
Tom Brady's 505 against us.
But they did not lose this game. Like Gannon wasn't 80% of the reason they lost this game. They lost this
There
game.
was a lot around, but I think he was. I think I think there's a lot of portions to go around, but if he would have the biggest piece of my pie. Jonathan Gannon would be like, if I listed them, and yeah, you're right. It's probably like 15%, and then it's 10 here, and then it's 5 here, and it's 2 here, and it's 3 on the field, and it's this and whatever. Like, I'm sure it goes all the way around. Gannon would still get the most percent of the pie on my list of who's to blame the most.
It's an interesting one.
I mean, look, Nick should be too.
Yeah.
You got to put Nick in there. Nick's the head coach. And Caller made a really interesting point today and said, hey, in 5 years, he's like, we're not going to talk about Jonathan Gannon losing Super Bowl. We're going to talk about Nick Sirianni having 10-point lead at halftime and them losing. He's that coach.
I don't disagree with that.
Like, and I thought it was a really good point. He's right. Ultimately, this will come on Sirianni, and he's the head coach.
Right.
And they weren't ready for the second half. They didn't make adjustments. And look, if you want to say the field, like you can't blame the field, then blame Sirianni for not adjusting quicker, for not doing the cleat thing quicker, for why were Kansas City's players seemingly and maybe it's just
the thing that I find interesting about the field.
That you can put on Sirianni
the thing that I find interesting about the field, and sometimes on Twitter it's tough to know like what's true and what's not. But I saw this thing about how the guy that did the field used to work for the Chiefs.
Oh yeah, and he's a Chiefs
and the
fan.
Chiefs didn't have to change their cleats at all, and the Eagles did. So that is one thing I find
fascinating
interesting.
Thing.
If that's true that the Chiefs didn't change their cleats and the Eagles did, and this guy used to work,
did.
I know they did. I just don't know if the Chiefs ended up changing.
Well, they didn't show they only showed the Eagles. They kept saying Eagles changed and changed,
right?
But they didn't show the Chiefs.
So that is interesting, right?
But and again, just the fact that it's a Chiefs fan who did the field, I know that it's probably set in time. Yeah. But like, what are we doing here?
It's not a good look. I agree. It's not a good look.
Million people who do this job in the world, or we can't get one who's not a Chiefs fan. And oh, by the way, how about someone who's not 94 years old?
I agree with all of this.
People, he's 94.
I agree with all of this. I agree with all of this. I agree that the field thing, to me, the field thing
it's a disgrace.
Is more than the flag.
It's a Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree with you.
I think the field thing has like enough truth to it where I can understand the upset. Like the flag thing to me, I just personally, like I would never talk about it again if it was up to me. It is what it is.
You would admit you would not have.
I would not throw in the flag.
So and again, I think the fact that all these national people, again, people who call games, like Kirk Herbstreit gets paid to call
I
NFL
wouldn't have thrown
football
it,
games, and he's like, you can't do that. Like that,
I agree.
I think that is notable.
I guess what I'm saying
is Eagles fans being like, oh, they throw a flag. This is big time national people.
Yes.
Like, pretty much everyone across the board. I've seen very few people nationally say they should have thrown that flag.
Dude, I agree with you. What I'm saying is, I think when you talk about like if you want to do the pie chart thing,
the field's way higher.
I think the field is higher than the flag,
no doubt.
So
and this field is more disgraceful. Like the flag is a horrible decision by a ref in a moment,
right?
But again, that's one person or one crew or whatever. Like the field is the NFL.
Well, and also they spent $800,000 on it.
The NFL not being ready for the single most important thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. So back to the Gannon thing. Let me say this. I think sometimes my opinion on Gannon is different than most because I have different expectations for a defensive coordinator. To me, I want two things from my defensive coordinator. I want them to make sure like we beat all the teams we're supposed to. And against great quarterbacks and great offenses, I at least want them to give me a chance, right? So I think we agree Gannon definitely does the first one. Like when they play, right? For sure. Against great
now again, you could argue the talent, but
that's the point I'm making. There's only like 5 or 6 quarterbacks you go into a game and you go like, that person's going to be really hard to play. And the Eagles have one of them, right? So ultimately,
that was a nice little throw in there.
You like that? Yeah, the Eagles have one of them, right? They do.
3 as far as
well, however you want to say. Like
numbers, by the way, I have Jalen 2 now.
Yeah, I think I would put Jalen.
I would go Mahomes 1, Hurts 2, Burrow 3.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Because before Burrow had kind of leaped his way up.
Dude, you could still talk
Hurts
me.
Couldn't do. And the fact that Hurts is 2 years younger than Burrow almost. He's like 20 months, 22 months. He's like 3+ years younger than Mahomes. Like, man.
So what's so funny is I feel like after the game, everybody's like, oh, Elliot, how about your Mahomes tweet? Not going to lie, man. Like, I feel just as strongly as I did before.
As you should.
Hurts was awesome. Again, Hurts made a massive, massive mistake that really hurt them. But Hurts was also really awesome, right? So you say you have Hurts too. Again, you could still talk me into Mahomes into Hurts 1.
It's hard after that game to not.
But Mahomes wasn't. Mahomes was good, but like.
I think Andy was better. Of the
two, that's what I'm saying. Right.
If I had to give just one game ball to the Chiefs, I'd give it to Andy.
Mahomes was really good at executing the offense, and he made.
Andy was unbelievable.
He's the best head coach of all time.
But again,
so
stop. Andy has never been that great in a big game. This was Andy's freaking crown achievement against us.
I don't disagree with that.
Asshole.
I'm just
26
saying.
26 runs, 27 throws. Like, of course, against us, you freaking asshole.
I don't disagree with that. But he was unbelievable, right?
He was amazing.
And look, so I guess we're just kind of free flowing here. But the other thing,
Yeah,
talking about,
we've been free
well, I have,
flowing. We're just
I know, but I have a
jumping on
Gannon point I haven't finished. But the Reed thing,
No one cares about Gannon, Elliot. No one cares.
dude, trust me,
Happy's gone.
I'm okay never talking about Gannon
I'll
again.
bet you
All right,
are. I'll
like,
bet you are.
but here's the other thing, a play that is really, really like I've thought about a lot more than the grass or the flag is punting on 4th and 2. Like,
great
if
call.
at the time I would have punted it. I'm
Oh, in
sorry,
the
I
moment.
take that back. I would have gone for it
I would
in
have
the
gone for
moment.
it.
Yeah.
There was not even a question in my mind. It was so and I know it was like 10 yards further back, but it was the same situation.
Right.
You're
And it was a
down
little
one.
later in, like
It
whatever.
was a
But
little more time on the clock.
there were some differences,
But
but the heart of it is the same. The heart of it is the
that
same.
you got an all-time GOAT quarterback on the other side,
Right.
and you are not stopping him this half. Go for it.
I
And
agree.
Doug got that. I'm
Well-
right there with that. And I think you could say Sirianni made a lot of mistakes. He
Dude,
did.
honestly, man, I would have gone for it on 4th and 6 as well.
So
but
I wouldn't. I would have kicked the field goal there, but fourth and 3, I was like, you have to go. You
because dude,
have to.
think about it
You
this
have
way.
to. They
Think,
couldn't stop him anyway.
there's 3 units on the Eagles. The best unit is the offense.
Without a doubt.
There's 53 players. The best
Yeah.
player is Jalen.
It's
Like at
without
the
a
end of the
doubt for
day,
me.
it was such a weak call by him.
It was weak.
Like, and look, Nick's been awesome. Like, you know, we definitely do a fair amount of Nick praise on this pod, and he deserves it. But this moment right here, like they look like one of the reasons they lost that Super Bowl. Like again, to get back to the pie chart thing, like I'll even say,
Nick's probably number 2
I'll
for
even
me.
say this. Like I think that coaching decision by Nick was worse than anything.
It was the worst coaching.
It was the
decision in the
worst
game.
coaching
Well,
decision in the
Andy,
game.
It's funny because Andy was brilliant.
He had the dumb one too.
He should have kicked that field goal in that early on.
Yeah,
Andy, I'm
in
talking
the one
And
day
they
missed,
it.
and it was
But that was a bad day.
Football gods, yeah.
Every single Eagles fan was like, "Oh God, I hope they don't go for it." Oh, they're kicking a
yeah,
field goal. Cool.
exactly.
Yeah,
Like,
whether they made it or not,
dude,
right?
and not to mention it was 4th and 2. Like the Eagles are perfectly
Dude,
set up to execute this.
I think that decision was the single worst coaching decision. in the
And
game. And I would have Nick too in terms of my pie
I
chart.
can't remember if
he would
this
go
came-
Gannon, then him.
Yeah.
then the
I
field.
can't remember if this came up on the post game pod, but it didn't come across to me live as much as it did rewatching how late these plays were getting in. Like all season, we've praised them for the fact that stuff doesn't happen. Like Nick, like one of the benefits of Nick not calling plays is that he's been really, really good at that stuff, right? The plays get in on time because like everything's operating smoothly. He knows when to challenge. He knows when to go for it on 4th and whatnot. He was not good on Sunday, right? Like
he was bad.
He was bad.
It was bad.
he was bad. And so this is where I think, to wrap it all up, we disagree a little bit. We disagree about a lot of things about Gannon in the reaction to the game. People love Nick Sirianni. He's earned that love. Jalen Hurts, people love him. He's earned that love, right? Ultimately, people don't like Gannon. But at the end of the day, all 3 of them played a role in them losing this game. And I think that it's just like, it's like a safe space for people to beat up on Gannon. But at the end of the day, guys like Jalen and Nick, who are awesome all year and deserve to be praised and are they deserve it. They deserve to be ripped as much as
Jalen now.
Okay, you're right about
it's
Jalen.
one
You're right.
play.
You're right.
Out of 67, whatever,
but
he made
it's
one mistake.
but
the
it's
whole
not.
game.
Yeah.
It's a massive one,
Right.
and it really hurt. But
Yeah.
I can't rip. It was almost the ball slipped out of his hands. Like I'm
Yeah.
not gonna rip that,
I-
especially because he put up 35 points.
Yeah.
Like he was amazing. I get your point.
Right.
The play itself matters. I'm not gonna rip Jalen for it. Like it happened. But like I get your point. That was
Right.
a big turning point play in the game. I'll rip Samalo before I rip that play.
Yeah, that was bad too.
I'll rip Samalo for
Again,
going outside.
that was the
Like,
offense.
The point. I know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, regardless, I'm not ripping Jalen for that play. I think Jalen was fucking unbelievable in that game, and he did that.
I
dude-
agree with you,
That
man.
dude,
He
laid
threw the
his-
ball
he
unbelievably
threw-
in that
he
game.
gave
The
everything he
2-point
had.
conversion,
The
rewatching
third
it was
and
way more
14 that
impressive.
got her might have been
Yeah, it
his
was
best throw
unbelievable.
of
A
his
third
career.
and like 17, I
Dude,
think
he
it was
was
maybe. Or
Unreal.
He
But
was.
That play mattered. I get it, but I think I blame Nick and Gannon in the coaching, and I blame defensive players more than I blame Jalen.
Well, that's what's been interesting to hear throughout the week is guys like I believe Ike has pointed this out. I think Richie has. You can speak better to that. Like the players made a lot of mistakes too.
Joe's been very big.
Okay,
on
Joe's-
not blaming
okay,
Gannon
yeah.
as much as-
So what I think, so we'll talk about this now. The fact that they scored touchdowns on the same play to different sides. Here's my reaction to that. One, it's just an example of Andy out-coaching Gannon, right?
Yep.
But I also think there's this fascination with it. Like, wow, they ran that play early. Like, guys, that happens all the time.
Mhm.
All teams do is look at plays that have worked against defenses and then try to run those plays against them. Like, that's what they do. So it wasn't this like like I see like TikToks about it. Like it's like the, like a volcano like grew out of the ground of the Delaware. Like they found a play the Eagles struggle with and they ran it and the Eagles struggled against it. Like, and that's bad coaching by Gannon and it's good coaching by Andy, but it's not like wizardry. It's not like a magic trick. They found a scheme and like a motion that the Eagles struggle with, and the players, and look, Gannon too, but the players couldn't handle it. Like, that's why I just think it was coaching. I think it was coaching.
Well,
I think it was players. Like it was everything again. But
TJ Edwards was horrible.
TJ was bad.
Marcus Epps had a pretty bad game.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
Like dudes had bad games. Like,
Yeah.
And again, to the point we made, this was a defense that all year prided itself.
They
on
didn't finish sacks when they got there.
making
Like part of that's the
plays, whether it was
field, but
sacks or
like
turnovers, they made zero big
Right.
plays. Zero. That's the thing. Like we kept comparing it to the
and the Chiefs
Super Bowl
didn't even
52.
make that many big plays.
the Super Bowl 52. You compare like what's the big difference in that game? The Eagles defense made one big play in that one.
Yeah,
I mean, one
and
big
I
play.
also think like, so there's this reaction nationally of like, oh my God, Mahomes was unbelievable. And he was good. I think they lost just because the Chiefs were like 10% better that day and the Eagles made two really big mistakes.
I just think you're simplifying, and I get your point. Like, and I don't.
But it's not like Mahomes was making all types of crazy throws.
No,
he had
guys
two
were
or
just
three
wide
crazy
open.
runs,
I
and that
think
was
the
it.
thing with
Yeah.
Mahomes is more that he was injured and playing through it, and still.
Here's a question for
I think
you.
that's
I haven't
where
thought of
the
the answer to
Mahomes
this.
thing
But
come from.
here's a question. If you put Jalen on the Chiefs, do the
I think
Chiefs
the
still
Chiefs
win?
win.
I think they probably still win,
In
right?
that situation, the way that game plays out, they
If you
probably
put Mahomes on the Eagles, what do you think?
I don't know.
I guess what I'm trying
Probably
to say
not.
is, like outside of the massive mistake that
I
Jalen
just-
made, which is a massive mistake, I don't think Mahomes played that much better than him.
Oh, I agree. I think Jalen. I mean, there are people saying you should have won MVP. No, I'm not saying that. I think
Right.
Mahomes did enough to deserve to win MVP with the winning team and all that. But yeah, I thought again, I'm not even upset about the fumble. Like it was a big play, and I'm upset about it holistically.
Right.
But I'm not upset at Jalen about it. Like I throw it out. Like I'm good. Like that was something that dude never does ever, and it was weird. It slipped out. To your point, maybe it was wet. Who the hell knows? But like he, other than that, he made one mistake. One in the whole freaking game, and it was big.
But it might have been why they lost.
But yeah, but again, they were up 10 after that. Like if it
But-
was something where if that happened in the fourth quarter, and that's why. But again, I
But the
get your
play
point.
has the same impact.
It does, but you're
Yeah.
still up 10.
You don't have as
points.
much time to recover, but like they
No, but
should have.
You're up 10.
Dude, you
points.
can
So
make
then
the
all
argument
of a
they
sudden
should have been
it's
up
a different
20
game.
at halftime.
Right, but it's a different game. At that.
Right.
I get what you're saying, but still, like you are up 10. Like I can't blame Jalen. He didn't lose 10.
But to flip that, like it felt like, and it's funny because the argument all year was the Eagles haven't played anybody tough. Are they going to step up to the moment when they do? Like my biggest concern, honestly, was that like they wouldn't be able to compete with the Chiefs just in terms of the Chiefs have played in these games and the Eagles haven't. The Eagles came out and played better than the Chiefs to start the game.
Well, I think the halftime hurt him
I think the halftime hurt them because of adjustments. Yeah. But like to me, the Eagles didn't look outclassed in that game.
I think the Eagles were better.
Again.
We were on different sides. I think the Eagles blew it. The Eagles were better. Of course, they didn't look outclassed. They should have outclassed the Chiefs. They were better.
Again, this
We're
is
not
kind
going to do this again. We don't
Well,
have to fight about it.
yeah, the last thing
you
I'll-
don't think
yeah.
that. I think.
I
that.
think the Chiefs are the better team, but
I definitively.
I know
don't.
you do,
I think
and
the
that's
Eagles lost.
but
the
they're
Super
both
Bowl.
great teams.
I think the Eagles lost the Super Bowl more than the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. That's what I think. And I feel
It's an interesting
very,
question.
Very strong.
I mean, look, I think that the adjustments the Chiefs made were a big part of it, and that's
Sure.
a part of them
Again,
being
I'm
a
not saying
better.
the Chiefs didn't win at all.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just saying if I have to choose between the two, I think the Eagles lost it more than the Chiefs won it. That's how I feel. I feel very strongly about it.
Yeah, I don't feel that way as
I know
much.
you
But
don't. I know
honestly,
you don't.
but last thing I'll say, and then I guess maybe
Well, I
we'll
got a
move
couple
on.
other things I want to get
Yeah,
to. So.
But I was just like, maybe that's why it doesn't upset me as much, is because to me it doesn't feel like it just feels like they lost a great game to a great
Yeah,
team, and I can
very,
be okay with
strongly
that.
disagree
Yeah.
with that. I think the Eagles should have won the Super Bowl and they didn't, and they blew
And-
it. And then the field part of it sucks, and the rep
Right.
part of it sucks, and it all comes together to again. And that's perfect that you went this way because I wanted to bring it up because I want to defend that this is just to the people online because you won't fight me on this, but just to the few people online who are trying to tell me that it is not the worst loss ever. And again, this is a feelings thing and all that, but like to people who are saying that like all the NFC Championship game losses were worse, like. Earmuffs went to do. You're fucking out of your mind, dude. I remember all the first of all the Rams won. Not
The
even
Rams
like, in
was
the
not even
hemisphere.
close,
No one even thought like we had a chance to win the game, but like we weren't even like considering it a possibility that was gonna happen. Like not even close. The Tampa Bay one is the only one even in the hemisphere. Last game of the bat, we thought we were gonna win it. We thought we would have won the Super Bowl. It's the only one in the hemisphere. But again, that was the NFC Championship game. We're talking about winning the Super Bowl,
Right.
having it in your hands. And then on top of that, that game, I know they were close for a bit, and then the Rondé thing, but like. watching that Bucks game, they went up 7-0, and then from that moment on, it never felt like they were the better team. It never felt like they were going to win. To my point, you might feel differently, but this Super Bowl, I felt like the Eagles were the better team, and they blew it.
Yeah.
So that is a much more painful thing. Like, it's not even close in my mind comparing an NFC Championship game to the Super Bowl.
So let me
Super Bowl. The only thing that even is in the hemisphere is like Joe Carter for me. And again, it was game 6, not game 7. They were down 3-2. It's not the same thing as being minutes away potentially from winning the Super Bowl, having it in your hands. And then on top of that, like in hindsight, like the Toronto Blue Jays team has like 4 Hall of Famers. They were an all-time great team. The 93 Phillies weren't that. Like this Eagles team was the best team in football all year. You said the best team. Many said the best Eagles team.
I think they are the best team in franchise history.
Okay, so
yeah.
I don't anymore.
Okay.
It's 2017 team because they got it done. Like, sorry. But on top of that, then so is that Chiefs team the best Chiefs team in franchise history? Because if you're going to say they're better than the Eagles, like that's my point. Like the Eagles were the best Eagles team, quote unquote, we've ever seen. And they had the chance to win the Super Bowl and they blew it. There is nothing more painful like that. And then when you add in the fact that how it ended and the all-time blue balls ending of that game, like honestly, like the more I get away from it, like when I tweeted it after the game, I was like, I think this might be the toughest or whatever. I was like, wasn't even saying Mike. Like I'm definitively sure this is the worst loss in my lifetime.
Yeah. So I think that anytime you're that close to winning the Super Bowl and you lose it, like there it is. The
Boom.
Debate's over, right? I do think just from a perspective, like if you compare, like 0-2 is comparable because there's no baggage with this team. There's a lot of baggage with that loss. And
you could say because we hadn't won yet.
Yeah, exactly.
That, but like,
right.
You won the Super Bowl.
So I think this team is in some ways more comparable to 0-1, just in the way that they got
the beginning of a run.
They got, yeah, exactly.
Again, who knows?
Right.
You know,
but so I think it's, I'm trying to get how I would say it. I think it is probably the worst loss in Philly sports history. I do, again, my perspective is different because I still think that 0-2 Eagles team was probably better than that Tampa team. Like, and the 0-1 Rams team was better than
I think that's a hindsight thing. I mean, that Tampa Bay team has 4 Hall of Famers on the defense. 4.
Right.
4 dudes.
But the Eagles were at home. They were up. Like,
I agree, but still, like, I think we in the moment
that quarterback was Brad
thought
Johnson.
They were better, but like, I think in hindsight, like, let's not forget that Tampa Bay defense was an all-time great defense.
But here's what I'd say.
And
like,
then they went and won the Super Bowl.
Taking away
player won MVP, all that stuff.
Right. Taking away who's the better team. Like, because I think the Chiefs are better. You think the Eagles do whatever, right? I think this is the worst loss because they were up 10 at halftime in the Super Bowl.
Again, they're only the second team in the history of
and
the other one's 28-3.
Right.
You are right there with the second worst loss in Super Bowl history to the Falcons in terms of blowing a game.
And it's not as bad as that, but in terms of
But I'm just saying, like, get close.
And look, going into the game, I was of the opinion of like whatever happens, I won't view the team differently, and I don't. I still think I still believe they're the best team in franchise history, but that's for another day.
Well,
but I think where my opinion has changed is like, man, it's gonna be so hard to get back.
Yeah,
it just is. It requires so much luck.
It's funny because I was thinking a lot about when we got into an argument about whether what happens in the Super Bowl will define the season or whatever, and it has for me. Like it is what it is. Like it was a great year, it was a great run, and I appreciate all the people and I'll never forget the experiences we had. So when I think about this season, I will think about this. Like this is the first and only thing I will think about is losing the Super Bowl, how we lost the Super Bowl, that game, all the missed chances, the freaking flag, the field, like that will be all I think about. And now if they win the Super Bowl again, if they can win the Super Bowl, that can alleviate some of that and change it because Jalen will get one and all that stuff. But man, but it's the 2022 Eagles for me will always be the team that gave me and they were great, but they gave me the worst loss of my life.
So
that's my first thought.
I do wonder if you're too much in the moment right now
I don't think so. I mean, again, it's the worst loss of my life. Like, we still talk about how upset we are about that Tampa Bay game. It comes up every year. But, the worst. Like, this is worse for me than in that moment. So it's going to linger. It's going to stay forever. We've won a Super Bowl since that Tampa Bay game. It still sucks to me. I still hate it. I still whatever.
I think it depends what happens after, for sure. Like you said,
the Super Bowl, it can change it. But for right now, it's like, man.
Well, I was even just thinking yesterday, and I thought of this. I thought I was right, and then I ended up being wrong. So it was a very roller coaster moment in my head. But like, how many teams lose a Super Bowl and get back? It's more than you think, but like in NFL history.
It came up on the show. 8 teams have done it.
In how long in the history of the league?
In the history of the Super Bowl, 8 teams have lost the Super Bowl one year and gone back the next year. 8 times.
Oh, okay. So I was just thinking in general.
Ever? I
But
mean,
yeah.
see, a lot of people, I'm sure, have lost Super Bowl.
Well, I guess what I mean is like, so you think about the Rams. The Rams went to the Super Bowl, lost, and then they came back, but that was with a different
Well,
quarterback.
no, the Rams went and won, and then
Well, they lost
and then
with
the
Goff.
loss. Oh, you're talking about that the more recent. I was thinking about
Yeah,
because we
yeah.
were just talking about the Eagles and 0-1.
Yeah,
I was thinking
yeah,
about
yeah.
how they went 0-1, then they lost the next one, Marks. But yeah, the Rams, sure, different quarterback.
I think it's going to
about-
be
look. The Bengals came within
of being close. Yeah,
a
for
penalty
sure.
at the end of the game too that gave them a field goal to against. Like the Bengals,
Right.
the Bengals had 2 opportunities to drive down the field, win that game, and they didn't. So the Bengals were this close to losing the Super Bowl going back this year.
Yeah.
So it's
I think where I fall
and the
on
NFC
it,
is horrible.
I think where I fall on it is the Eagles are better set up than anybody to do it.
Mhm.
It's just really hard to do.
Yeah.
You know, but you could, the
That's why I'm so
arguments
upset.
against the Eagles
That's
are the
part of why
same
I'm so
ones.
upset.
Yeah.
It's part of the whole thing.
It sucks, man. They lost to a great team.
No,
it sucks.
they blew the Super Bowl. That's what happened.
To a great team.
They blew the Super Bowl. All right. I got 2 silver. I'm not ready for silver. Like I told you. So we're recording. I was tomorrow with Jack, and I was like, I'm just letting you know, like I'm not excited about the Phillies. Like I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm just not. It's gonna
Like, what
be
is there
you
even to
could.
talk about?
I-
Too? Like, you
Well,
know,
pitchers and
like-
catchers are reporting. Phillies
well,
are-
but right. So like, who wants to do like a
It's
preview
exciting for the
pod
season.
right
It's
now?
like,
Yeah.
The point is, like, I'm not. And I love baseball. It's my favorite sport. Like, just the sports stuff. I always say that. Like, I'm not excited at all. Like, I
Yeah.
don't care about it. I'm so wrapped up in this. Like, I don't know how long it'll be.
Well,
It'll happen. But right now, like, this is all. Like, I can't even enjoy life. Like, I know it sounds crazy. And I had a caller call me up today and be like, it's sick how much this affects us, but it does. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, this has ruined my life this week. Like,
Yeah.
ruined it. Like, I have had 3 straight days of being in a earmuffs under a fucking shitty mood. I'm in a shitty mood every day. And it's because of that. And
Right.
it's what it is.
so I said this on the radio, and I guess it was in the Go Birds feed, but I'll say it on here. I think the players feel that way too.
Yeah,
And like
yeah.
being around them, like, you know, I've been around teams now. I haven't been around a team that lost the Super Bowl that was an Eagles team, but I've been in the locker room of teams that have lost Super Bowls. I've covered Super Bowls Eagles weren't in, and what always stood out to me was how businesslike it seemed. Like it didn't feel businesslike to me with the Eagles. The Eagles feel, I think, very close to how you do. Like I think one thing people want out of their players is for them to feel the same way the fans do,
Sure.
and that's not always realistic. But in this case, I think that's how they feel.
No, and I look, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
That
and let me
does-
get an Eagles Phillies thing in before
Sure.
your final point. I think one similarity the two teams have in common, and the Super Bowl loss hammers this home for me, is like what other thing that's sad about them losing and the Phillies losing the World Series. In sports will always be fun, but like man, it's so different now. Like the Phillies, if they make the playoffs, that's not enough. If they win a
yeah,
playoff
that's great
round,
point by
it's
you.
not
You
enough.
said this on the radio today. You're
Yeah.
right, about the Eagles too. Like the Eagles,
It's
like,
just
you gotta
it's
win the
not
Super Bowl
enough
now.
anymore.
It's like
You
the
know,
Donovan thing. Yeah.
even Jalen winning MVP would be awesome to see him do it, but like we've seen MVP Jalen. Like the reason this year was so fun the whole way was like, oh my God, I can't believe how good Jalen is. Next year, if they come out and they win 38-7 against the Steelers or whatever, like I don't know, like it'll be like, yeah, they're really good. You know,
So I do think here, let me. So this is one of my 2 silver linings of that, and I do think the Jalen thing. And again, I'm not happy. I'm not talking about happiness and stuff yet, but I do think that the thing with Jalen that is exciting to me is he's going to get better. Like Jalen Hurts will get better.
he'll get better, but he was already so good. Is the point I'm making.
I think he's going to get better.
He could be,
but
yeah.
again, he will. Why wouldn't he? Is there anyone?
Because he's already, yeah. I'm not
He's
saying,
24 years old.
yeah.
He is going to get better. He's going to become a better quarterback. He's going to understand when he sees more of this and that. Like, I mean, it's already great. Like,
I agree with
I
all
think
that.
Jalen Hurts is going to continue to get better.
I agree.
And that is something where I do think that there is the potential for that, where it's not just when it's like, oh my God, like Jalen is the best quarterback in football. Jalen is better than Mahomes. Jalen is like, I think that is the potential for something like that to happen. I think like the sky is the limit. I think Jalen Hurts has a chance to be one of the great quarterbacks.
Dude,
of all
I
time
spent a
if
week on
things
Super
go
Bowl
that way.
Radio Road defending him over
Yeah.
Mahomes.
Again, now
I'm
he
with
has
you
to
on
play,
that.
he has to- it has
I'm
to stay
just
on
saying
field, like,
it's
there's a million
different
things.
now.
I
You
get
know,
it,
like
it
there's a
is.
difference in terms
It
of
is.
like if they get the 1
Expectations.
seed, like
Sure.
all those things. It the fun of it changes.
Well, yeah, it's not going to be as unexpected.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying,
Yeah,
right.
I know it's a bummer.
It's a little like the Sixers in the way of
No, I will say, like,
in the way of like nothing matters what the Sixers do until the second
well,
round.
this is my other silver lining. I agree with that, but I also will say that, you know, after we won the Super Bowl, we had this whole thing about, will we ever kind of care as much? Like, will we ever be as?
You
animated?
said that this is a good point.
and we did. We cared. Like, I really feel like that, and right now I'm dead inside. So, you know, I'm guessing
Right.
where this is going to go. I really am dead inside. But I do think that this loss will reinvigorate me in a way where like I need them to fucking win the Super Bowl now. Like I need
Yeah.
it. Like again in a way that I did before. In a way because I didn't. I said we did the whole thing as mean as much. It didn't. Like how that played out and losing that game that way brought the fire to want it. Like I am desperate to win the Super Bowl.
I think that's a good point.
In a way that I was before and I wasn't after 2017 for the last 5 years. Like,
Yeah.
that's back for me now.
Well,
Like,
I think that's-
I need it.
And I think that's part of what I was saying a little bit. And I think the way it played itself wasn't what I was expecting. But when I was saying like this closes the chapter on the 2017 Super Bowl, which is sad in a way.
You were, that's
You know,
a really
but,
good
like,
point,
to your
Elliot,
point,
not in the way you expect.
Not in the way I expected, but like
You're
you're
totally-
right.
it's a
That
great point.
emotion came from that.
It's a great
like,
point.
so-
Elliot, great point.
Well,
yeah.
it's a combo great point
Yeah,
because you
that's what
finished
we
it.
do.
I had the first part. You finished it.
All right, and then my last thing is just the idea. Like we've talked so much about the most disappointing things about this, but that Elliot got to see Troy Kotzer do the national.
Oh, I know,
anthem
yeah.
live,
Well,
and
for
then
people
had to
might-
watch an Eagles loss after is such an outrage.
Oh, I know. Well, for those that
travesty.
don't know, that's the main character
That's the
from
guy
Coda.
from Coda
Yeah,
signing the national
sign
anthem.
language. You know, I love sign language.
So I
Yeah.
brought it up.
So it was
I was so excited
unbelievable.
when he was on the field. Like it's Troy.
Well,
oh my God.
What was funny is I texted you earlier in the week when I was at the Rihanna
Yeah.
thing, and I texted you like, "Oh my God, look who's here!"
It was Troy Kotzer and Rihanna up there, and he's like pointing at Troy. He's like a true star.
Yeah, I want to learn. I want to learn sign language. I think it's awesome, man.
You can.
Why, like at the press conference, and this is so off topic, but the press conference, where Rihanna's press conference, they had the people that were going to be signing it come out, and they did an interview. I just think it's so cool.
It is pretty. I know you do. You
Yeah.
can learn it. You
I know. Well, I think
you could definitely learn it.
I just have such a bad memory. I feel like it'd be hard for me,
Yeah.
but I'll try.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is funny because that's the first time Rihanna's name has come up in our Super Bowl coverage.
Yeah, what'd you think of her?
So I'll tell you what I tagged. The funniest, I thought she was very good for it. Like just played some bangers. Got out here. I'll read you exactly what I wrote, and I texted it to you too. But it's very funny because this is the God's honest truth about the Rihanna halftime show.
Mhm.
I knew every single song she did except one. Every single song. I'm like, oh, I know this.
Yeah.
Oh, I know this. Every single one except one I had never heard. Literally, I'm not kidding when I say this. Umbrella's the only one I knew.
You come on.
I didn't even know
You've
they
never
were her.
heard of Umbrella?
No, I'm saying Umbrella's the only one I knew was her.
Oh,
Like, I knew
okay.
every song she had, like 8 songs. I had heard 7 of them.
You didn't know they were her.
I
see
had
what
no
you're saying,
idea
yeah.
who they were. I was like, oh, that's a banger. I know
Welcome
that
to
song.
my life.
That's the point. Is
Yeah.
I knew none of them were Rihanna except Umbrella. So like all bangers. I've heard them all a bunch of times. I didn't even know they were her.
This is literally exactly what happened when I watched the Queen
great
movie.
old guy take.
When I watched the Queen movie, Bohemian Rhapsody, this is exactly what happened. I was like, oh wow, they sing this too.
Well, that's a
Like,
bad job of you. But that's your.
well,
not
I mean,
knowing history.
Rihanna's probably just as big as Queen.
Oh God.
Are you kidding
No,
me?
she's very.
Yeah,
famous,
yeah, yeah. All right, yeah.
Very famous. But I
We,
it's
like, we're
a
probably
different-
pick- Well, they're both. I think they're two of the most well-known like bands artists of all time.
So all right. Well, that's all I got. That's everything. I've emptied the tank.
We didn't really talk about Gannon leaving and
I'm gonna
Steichen,
say-
but that can be for another day.
Well, I figure we'll get into
Yeah,
all
yeah,
that,
yeah.
like the effects. I don't want to. I like. Here's my take on Gannon leaving.
I know. All right. Well, we'll have an whole off season to deal with.
My take on Steichen leaving. Less excited about it, but I will say I really like Brian Johnson, and I think they probably were going to lose him if they didn't.
Yeah.
So like, I'm more okay than most.
My 10-second take, and then we'll do more on the other pod, is as much as I think both are a loss, both Gannon and Steichen. I think there is something. I think the hardest part about next year is going to be running it back and doing it again.
Something
Even
about
though
new
it might make them
voices, new
worse, I
faces.
do think there is something about it'll be easier, I think, to do it again if you have more new people.
Reinvigoration.
You know, like
yeah.
that's when we'll do a pod like who you're going to bring back, and they should bring them back because they have a lot of good players that are free agents. But there's part of me that would be a little worried about coming back with the same coaching staff, the same roster.
Well,
I think the
that's right.
frustration
You
could
don't
get
have to- you
quicker.
don't have to
Of,
worry about that.
yeah, unfortunately with both Steichen and Gannon,
Yeah,
they're
sure,
gone.
one of those. Yeah.
Don't worry, Gannon will be back in 3 years as the coordinator. So.
Yeah.
I don't know why he took. I get why he took the job, but man, that's
It's the
bad
worst job on the
It's the
market.
worst job on the market. Yeah.
Oh, can you imagine walking in that Kyler contract and Kyler?
Oh, it's
Oh
yeah.
my God, Jonathan Gannon's such a. Fun
Well, it's so funny because I
Like,
went on a
he's gonna-
radio
no,
station.
He's just so.
I went
he's
on a
just
radio
not
station
good.
in Arizona, and they were like, they were like, so it seems like the fans have a love-hate relationship with Gannon. I'm like, well, that might not be how I would define it. And then they were like, so you're around Gannon. Like, what are the Cardinals getting? And I was like, probably a coach they shouldn't hire.
Did you really say that?
Yeah, I wouldn't hire him to be a head coach. And they, people were like, this sounds concerning. And I'm like, it is concerning.
That'd be great.
Like, it is concerning. Like, he's a good defensive coordinator. I'm like, you're not hiring him for his defensive scheme, number one. Like, hiring a coach for his defensive scheme is like the dumbest thing you could possibly
Yeah.
do. And again, I've said this, like, I like him personally. He just doesn't come across as a head coach to me.
Yeah. Again, he comes off as fraudy to me. Like he always has. It's part of the reason I haven't liked him. I've told you this before. My thing on Gannon is I've always thought he's kind of the guy who talks really well, is like impressive to like when you listen to him and stuff, but doesn't actually know what the fuck he's doing.
Well,
that's my whole Gannon.
Yeah. I mean, the results have been good, but
we'll do it next time. All right.
Yeah.
Final thought. We did an hour. So we'll do Steichen and Gannon next time. We'll talk about the effects, all that. Maybe by then we know who the coordinators are. Plus, Howie and Nick at some point you would think, who knows what the deal with that is. But obviously Saturday, 1 to 3, Parks back at it. Final thought.
So, all right. I've made a lot of bad travel decisions in my life. Bad hotels, bad meals, bad locations. Look at me in the eyes. I'm never booking another red eye the rest of the time I'm alive. Are you listening to me right now?
Yeah.
Okay. You did. Well, I asked you to look at me in the eyes.
You didn't. I'm sorry. That's my fault. I was pulling up my notes.
It's all right.
Now
it's all right.
Well,
you ruined the whole thing. I had it all
let's start
going.
over. I'm looking
all
at
right,
now.
look at me.
Right in your eyes.
I am never booking a red eye flight as long as I'm
Really?
alive.
It was that bad?
Dude, what you don't think about with the red eye is that you have to get out of your hotel at 11 a.m. So I was, not to compare.
That is a disaster.
Yeah.
Well,
like, I had nowhere to be for like 10 hours. Nowhere. I bounced around. Like, I sat in Starbucks for an hour. Like, I literally went to places thinking, how long can I sit here?
So, especially the day after the Eagles lose the Super Bowl, too.
Yeah. Well,
sounds like the worst.
Well, when I booked it, and look, this would have hit this.
You thought you'd be celebrating.
This definitely would have hit you harder than it hit me. But like, a lot of like more well-seen and known Chiefs fans on Monday than the rest of the week. Like the airport, like just walking around. NFL shop was all Chiefs gear. Like, just you wouldn't be able to handle it.
I've been in tears.
But like,
I've been in the fetal position, like laying on the ground.
Dude, like it was just waiting for a red eye was just the worst thing ever. Yeah, it was a long day. And then like, I'm good.
I was like, I can't believe
I'm good at sleeping on planes. I really am. But like, you never sleep the same.
No.
Like, so it was absolutely terrible.
Oh, buddy. I don't really have a good one. I bailed on the good. I'll ask you a question.
Mine wasn't great.
I have a question to the parents out there.
Right.
Because another funny thing that I've never brought up that Zoe does that I want to know if she's weird. Because it turns out like the other stuff in the Talk About TV, a lot of people are like, hey, my kids do it too. So do other kids, whenever so a lot of these songs or shows that you watch, they have songs in them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like whatever it is, like they'll have like in the middle, like they'll sing, like she watches this show called Butterbean Cafe.
Nice.
Loves Butterbean.
Sounds like a place I could have sat.
You would have loved Butterbean. But like those songs in the middle of episodes or whatever, and like the opening song or whatever, every single song, whether it's the opening song or a song in the middle of the episode, Zoe has to get up and dance through it. She'll be like, come on, Daddy, let's dance.
It feels like
every single time we'll do whatever we're doing. She'll be eating dinner. We're sitting there eating dinner. And she's like, dance. I gotta go. Gotta dance. Hold, stop.
Everybody stop.
Everything.
Stop what you're doing.
Hold up. And then she gets up and she does her little like dance moves. And then she sit back down and go back to what she was doing.
Feels like
is this weird?
Feels like a good way to live life.
Oh, it's great. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Big fan.
I feel like this hopefully is something. Now it'd be funny if I hope she does it the rest of her life. But it would be funny if like at meetings and like
hold up, President
Butterbean Cafe is on. Yeah,
hold up, guys, I got
exactly.
Let me know if that's weird because I thought it's pretty adorable.
So it's funny, like this is me getting older again. But I remember when I went to college, my grandma gave me a book and like it was the lyrics. It was like a visual book to the lyrics of the song "I Hope You Dance" by whoever sings it, right? And like again, I love my grandma. It was a gift at the time I probably didn't fully appreciate, But it is funny, like you bring up that with Zoe, and I think of that book, like it kind of is great advice.
Yeah,
like, just go out and be yourself.
I'm a big dancer.
So anyway, that's the corniest thing I'll ever say. But that's what I'm saying.
Favorite, life ethos.
Yeah. So at the time, I was probably just like, what am I gonna do with the visual?
No, it's like, wow.
What am I gonna do with? Yeah, exactly. Like
poignant, man.
A picture book of "I Hope You Dance" was not Freshman Elliot's hitting home. 35-year-old Elliot still be like, wow, that's really meaningful and beautiful.
I love it. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. All right. Thank you, everyone. I mean, we don't, a
lot of good 5-star reviews
you're
have been
my
out
one
there.
shining light throughout this sad period. No, that of my daughter.
That flew by.
We're an hour and 3 minutes in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll be back later.
We're back to normal stuff.
Yeah, back to normal.
Yeah.
What a bummer.
It'll be a fun off season.
Yeah. And then next Super Bowl run we'll do.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Me and you did talk like, should we just do daily pods? But I think that
It has to
just
be
it
special.
deserves to be a
It
playoff
has to be
thing.
special. Yeah.
It's like a playoff beer.
It is a lot.
You know.
The Daily Pod's a lot. I love
Yeah.
talking to you, but it's a lot.
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, next week your life changes forever.
Yeah, big
which
change.
impacts it.
So
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes. All right. Until then. Who's up? Yeah, we went an hour and 4 minutes.
All right,
Jesus.
guys. Thank you to everybody.
Hey,
Let's see.
guys.
Unfortunately, we couldn't read everything, but it looks like a lot of good things were said.
We will read it. We'll go back.
Yeah, I think these are all YouTube comments, I think. All right, let's see. Yeah, seems like a lot of people agreed with you. All right,
Yes, they
guys.
should.
We'll
Thank
talk to you later.
you. Love you guys.